Hello everybody, my name is Kenny. I am the percussion instructor at the Vanderbilt Marching Band and a percussion student at the Blair School of Music. And today we're going to learn a little bit about snare drums. Specifically, we're going to talk about how to set up your drum correctly, how to stand nice and confidently behind the drum, and then how to hold the sticks and how to play a few notes. Okay, so we'll go through this pretty quick, but hope you enjoy. So the first thing we got to do is make sure the drum is at the correct height, right? We don't want to be playing way above our head and we don't want to be playing really close to the ground. We want to make sure it's at the right height for us. So for me, I like to put my drum so that the top of it, the drum head, is right about at my belt level, right at my waist where my hips are. So if you're wearing a belt, then try to line that up. If not, just try to line it up with your hip bones, okay? The next thing is you want to make sure your drum is nice and flat, all right? If it's at too much of an angle, if it's like at this much of an angle, if you hit the drum, your stick's going to bounce off to the side. So we want it to be nice and flat. And a good way to check this is first with your eyes. See if you can get it to be flat just with your eyes, and then put your drumstick on it. And if it stays still and doesn't roll away from you or roll towards you, you know the drum is flat, okay? So check that out. The next thing is how far away we stand from the drum. All right, I see a lot of people start standing too close and they're kind of like pulling their elbows back and it's uncomfortable. I also see some people stand too far away and they have to kind of reach for it, okay? So we want to stand about 4 inches away from the drum, or maybe about the length of a phone or like a soda can or something like that. So you have like a nice amount of space between you and the drum, okay? It's about what's comfortable, okay? So just kind of experiment with it, but just make sure you're not too close or too far away, all right? The next thing is our feet. We want them to be about the width of our shoulders, okay? We don't want to stand with them together, so we're kind of like teetering back and forth, right? We also don't want to stand with them too far apart, so we get really like close to the ground, all right? So just about shoulder width apart, nice and square, nice and centered with the drum, and now we're ready to play, all right? So let's talk a little bit about how to play, how to hold the drumstick. The first thing you want to do is take these two fingers, your thumb and your index finger, and just kind of like make a pinching motion, like you're about to like pinch some salt, like sprinkle it on your food, all right? So hold it, pinch the drumstick like this, all right, a little bit past the tips of your fingers, and then just open up your hand like an okay sign and wrap your fingers around the stick, okay? You'll get this kind of shape, all right? And the big things to watch out for is your index finger and your thumb, all right? That's called the fulcrum. That's what we call the fulcrum, this kind of point, or the pivot point, and it's because that's where the stick is going to pivot while you play. All right in between your thumb and your index finger. All right, the next thing is you want to make sure that this space isn't too open, okay? We don't want to play drums like this, all right? That's not very stable, it's not very strong. If you hit the drum, stick could fly out of your hand, okay? So again, this is called the fulcrum, right in between your thumb and index finger, and you want that to stay connected. And you want this space to stay closed, all right? You don't want it to be too open, you want it to stay closed. The rest of your fingers just kind of wrap around the stick naturally. You don't want it too far out in the tips of your fingers. You don't want it too far in, like against your like thumb, all right? So just see what's natural, let your hand relax, and let your fingers wrap around the stick. Try to make it look kind of like this, okay? Last thing is, we want to make sure there's about 1.5 inches worth of space here, not too far up and not too far back, all right? Both of these are just gonna kind of feel a little bit uncomfortable, and if you kind of experiment with it, you'll kind of understand why, all right? It's gonna feel less natural. It's gonna feel like there's kind of like shocks going into your hand. If you've ever like swung a baseball bat at the ground, like at the concrete, you'll know it kind of feels like it's fighting you. It feels like uncomfortable, okay? So hold it with about 1.5 inches worth of drumstick below your pinky, not too high up, not too far down, just right in the middle. If you use a drumstick by this brand, Vic Firth, they always print an American flag right below the logo. And if your thumb touches that flag like a thumbprint scanner, you're in the right place, okay? So do that with both of your hands. Now we're ready to play. Standing up nice and tall, nice and centered behind your drum. Drum's at the right height, drum is nice and flat. And put your drumsticks right over the center of the head and then pull them back. We don't want to play right in the center, okay? Want to play about 1 inch closer to yourself. This is where the snare drum is going to sound the best, okay? If you play right in the center, it's kind of like if you're on a trampoline and someone jumps onto the trampoline with you and it kind of like double bounces and cancels out the shock, right? When you hit a drum head, if you play right in the center, it kind of fights itself. You want to play a little bit towards yourself, just a little bit off center, okay? All right? And then when we play, Try to avoid using big arm motions. I know that might be really fun, might feel cool, might be more comfortable to do that, but you want to use your wrist, okay? We want to build our wrist muscles just like a bodybuilder or like an athlete might train their muscles to be better at a certain sport. We want to make sure that we're training our wrist muscles so that we can drum better, okay? All right. Notice how I'm not trying to play this all with my arms. I'm not trying to play this all with my fingers. Nope, neither of those ones. Mostly use your wrist. Cool. We're going to play a really short exercise now. It's called short, short, long. And we're going to play a few beats of eighth notes, 1 and 2 and then 2 beats of 16th notes. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and a stop. All right, just that much. All right, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and a stop. And that's all. That's all we have for today. Again, remember, drum height, drum nice and flat, keep your fulcrum, keep that space closed, stand nice and confidently behind your drum, and then play with your wrists. Thank you for listening.